In this lecture, we're going to talk about making your writing flow. This is one of the most understated yet most important things about blogging. There's so many people out there writing now, it really matters about how you write. You don't have to be fancy, you don't have to use big words, but you do need to write clearly, and you also need to write in a way that flows well. And flow is just another way to say that you communicate ideas effectively. I use a multi-pronged approach to write with good flow, and we'll actually go through a few different things that contribute to good flow in writing. So one of the things is that you need to write conversationally. What I mean by that is that you need to write your blog posts kind of how you would explain it to a friend. So I would ask yourself that before you hit publish on a blog post, is to ask yourself, how would you explain your blog post to a friend? And does it read like that? Does it read like you actually talk? So I would also read it aloud. So read your blog post after you've did your draft, after you've built out your points, after you've made revisions. Read it aloud. Does anything feel funny? Does anything feel too formal or too stuffy or maybe too much slang? It could be a bunch of different things. But reading it aloud allows you to see it in a different way. It allows you to hear some things maybe that your eyes are used to that shouldn't be. And then the third thing is, don't be afraid to break the rules. I think Stephen King said something about you need to know the rules enough to break them in writing, and I believe that to be very true. You need to know the rules, but don't be afraid to break them. And what I mean by that, don't be afraid to start sentences with the word and. Don't be afraid to, make your sentences a little bit long if it's needed. Don't make them complicated, but do what you need to do to write conversationally, to write in a way that people can understand and connect to. Second thing is building flow between sentences and paragraphs. This is really important because that's where you lose flow. You lose flow transitioning from sentence to sentence. But one of the best ways to actually build connection, build flow between sentences and paragraphs is to start sentences with connection words like and but. I know that we're taught in school not to start sentences with that, but in all honesty, we talk that way, and so it's okay to write that way. Second thing is indicate when something new is coming. So like I mentioned in our example, I show before I go into the supportive points that I'm about to go into the supportive points. I indicate that, hey, here are 5 things I've learned about becoming a better leader. You need to give your reader a heads up so they know what to expect and that they can read it very easily. And then the third thing, really important, is to show the relationship between ideas. You need to connect your conclusion paragraph to the main points, to the main idea. You need to show the relationship between the supportive point and the main idea. It's all about unifying it, making it feel cohesive, and showing that you actually know what you're talking about because what you're communicating is clear. And here are a few final flow quick tips. One is that you should vary your sentence length and structure. And the best way to explain this is actually to give you an example, a very practical example. So here's a sentence that says, Bob is 24 years old. He was born in Brooklyn, New York. He's a really nice person. So it sounds pretty boring and vanilla and repetitive. And the reason why is that each of these sentences are very similar in length, in tone, and structure. And so to fix this, you can actually just vary the sentence length a little bit and the structure of it. And so here I say, Bob is 24 years old. He was born in Brooklyn, New York, and is one of the kindest guys you'll ever meet. See, that sounds a lot better. It feels a little more natural. And all we did is just change up the sentence structure a little bit, change the vocabulary a little bit, and change the sentence length. That's the big difference there. Another quick tip is to vary your starting words. If you use the same starting word for each sentence, it's going to get very repetitive very quickly. So here's an example for that. Bob was 24 years old. He was born in Brooklyn, New York. He's one of the kindest guys you'll ever meet. He has a master's degree in forensics. Do you feel how repetitive that is? The reason it feels so repetitive is not only is the sentence length kind of similar, but we keep repeating the word he. So he was born in Brooklyn, New York. He is one of the kindest guys you'll ever meet. He has a master's degree in criminal forensics. But watch what happens when you vary your starting words, how differently it feels. Bob was 24 years old. He was born in Brooklyn, New York, and is one of the kindest guys you'll ever meet. After studying 5 years at NYU, he walked away with a master's degree in criminal forensics in the fall of 2017. See how different that felt? How much more natural that felt? And it's because we're varying sentence structure and we're varying the starting words. And it just feels better to our ears when we read things that way. And then another final flow quick tip is to keep your sentences simple. This isn't really about length as it is about the idea that you're communicating. You don't need to make sentences too long, but the main thing is you need to keep them simple and easy to understand. So let's go through this example here. This is kind of a difficult sentence to read because not only is it long, but it's just confusing. This says Bob was always known as a basketball phenom in his hometown of Brooklyn, New York, and is now a world-renowned NBA star known for his superior opponent-freezing dribbling skills that keep opponents at bay. That is just way too much information to try to consume in one sentence. Our brains don't work that way. We need a break between sentences to be able to comprehend it and to digest it properly. So here is an example of that same sentence, but in a revised format. Bob grew up as a basketball phenom in Brooklyn, New York. He's now a world-renowned NBA star with opponent-freezing dribbling skills. See how much easier that is to digest, how much easier it is to understand that and to read that? And all I did was work on simplifying the sentence. It's the same communication, same information, but just simpler and way easier to understand. So I'll keep all of these quick tips in mind as you build out your blog post. Keep these quick tips in mind and build flow into your blog post, and I guarantee you will see a return on that investment.